He was enormous. In her memoir, Ingrid Bergman opens up about everything. On August 29, 1915, Ingrid Bergman was born in Stockholm, Sweden. She was raised in a world far different from the glitz and glamour of entertainment. Tragic events characterized her early years. At the age of 3, she lost her mother, and at the age of 12, her cherished father, a photographer who had inspired her to love photography and performance, passed away. Raised by family, she was shy and orphaned, but discovered her calling and escape on stage. Despite her reserved manner, Bergman showed a remarkable talent for expressing emotion at a young age, and she pursued acting with unflinching resolve. She attended Stockholm's esteemed Royal Dramatic Theatre School, which also trained another Swedish celebrity, Greta Garbo. Her brilliance immediately made her stand out, and she soon found herself starring in Swedish films that received praise from critics for her radiant presence and organic acting technique. In the 1936 Swedish film Intermezzo, she landed one of her first major parts that would propel her to global fame when it was adapted in Hollywood. Bergman came to Hollywood in 1939 at producer David O. Selznick's request to play alongside Leslie Howard in the American adaptation of the love romance Intermezzo. She differentiated out from the more stylized stars of the day, with her mild accent, genuine performances, and sweet, unspoiled attractiveness. After captivating audiences, Ingrid swiftly rose to prominence as one of the most sought-after actresses of the early 1940s. She rose quickly and brilliantly. She starred in a number of timeless movies throughout the ensuing years, showcasing her versatility and depth of feeling. Her portrayal as Ilsoon, opposite Humphrey Bogart in Casablanca 1942, is one of her most famous roles. Since then, the movie has grown to become one of the most cherished in cinematic history, and a major factor in its enduring appeal is Bergman's portrayal of a woman divided between duty and love. Her glowing face will always be remembered by moviegoers around the world, particularly in the moving sequences at Rick's Cafe. Bergman received a lot of praise for her work during this time, and was nominated for several Academy Awards. Her captivating portrayal of a lady gradually made to fear she is going insane in Gaslight earned her her first Academy Award for Best Actress in 1944. Her outstanding theatrical aptitude was demonstrated by the psychological intensity and sensitivity she gave to the character. Other noteworthy parts followed, such as her portrayal opposite Cary Grant in Alfred Hitchcock's 1946 film Notorious, which told a convoluted story of treachery, romance, and espionage. She once again demonstrated her ability to control the screen with grace and emotional authenticity. Following her passion, she relocated to Italy and worked with Rossellini on a number of neo-realist movies, such as Journey to Italy, Europa 51, and Stromboli 1950. Despite not being box office successes at the time, these movies were eventually acknowledged for their daring innovation and impact on contemporary filmmaking. After spending a number of years overseas, Bergman triumphantly returned to American cinema in 1956 with her second Academy Award-winning performance in Anastasia. This time, the industry that had previously rejected her gave her a symbolic welcome back. She kept performing in both American and European movies, consistently establishing herself as one of the most adaptable and unafraid actresses of her period. She has gained recognition on theater and television, especially for her Emmy-winning portrayal of Israeli Prime Minister Golder in A Woman Called Gula. In addition to 2 Emmy Awards, a Tony Award, and numerous other accolades, Ingrid Bergman received 3 of the 7 Academy Award nominations she received over her career. She collaborated with some of the best directors of the 20th century, such as Sidney Lumet, Ingmar Bergman, Alfred Hitchcock, and No Relation, and she was a multilingual actress. But more than the honors, audiences of all ages were won over by her quiet dignity and unwavering sincerity. Ingrid Bergman was a lady who defied the constrictive standards of her era, lived fearlessly, and performed magnificently. She never wavered in her commitment to her profession or her morality, even when scandal threatened to eclipse her achievements. She went through marriages, divorces, motherhood, illness, and both intense highs and agonizing lows in her personal life. But she handled them all with such grace. The well-known Swedish actress Ingrid Bergman, who was married to Peter Aron Lindstrom in 1937, was known for her beauty and skill. Bergman lived in the glitz and glamour of Hollywood and international film, But Lindstrom was a respected medical professional, more precisely, a neurosurgeon, and represented a completely different world. Despite being steady and seemingly traditional at first, Bergman's growing fame and her growing involvement in the movie business complicated their marriage. Pia Lindstrom, the 1938-born daughter of Ingrid and Peter Lindstrom, would go on to become a prominent news anchor and television journalist. The demands of Bergman's job and the personal struggles she endured as she grew older and more well-known worldwide contributed significantly to the couple's eventual difficult relationship, despite the facade of a typical household. Ingrid Bergman's life took a significant turn in the late 1940s, when she fell in love with Italian director Roberto Rossellini. Rossellini was a well-known and significant filmmaker who helped to establish Italian neo-realist filmmaking. The fact that their affair started while Bergman was still married to Lindstrom caused a great deal of controversy at the time. Because it defied conventional norms of marriage and faithfulness, this relationship was intense and contentious. When Bergman gave birth to Rossellini's daughter Isabella Rossellini in 1952, the affair came to the attention of the public. This child's birth marked a major upheaval in Bergman's personal life and provoked heated public discussion and media attention. Ingrid Bergman ended her 13-year marriage to Peter Lindstrom in 1950 after Isabella was born. Bergman and Rossellini married in Mexico shortly after, thus establishing their partnership. With their marriage, Bergman entered a new phase of his life that was intricately linked to Italian culture and Rossellini's filmmaking vision. Two other children were born to the couple, Isa Ingrid Rossellini in 1956 and Roberto Ingmar Rossellini in 1954. The marriage encountered many difficulties, including as cultural divides, professional constraints, and the intense public scrutiny that followed their previous controversy, despite their creative collaborations and the expansion of their family. In 1957, Bergman and Rossellini finally got divorced, ending a complicated and significant collaboration that had profoundly impacted both their personal and film histories. Ingrid Bergman married Swedish theatrical entrepreneur and impresario Lars Schmidt in 1958, a year after she and Rossellini divorced. After years of public turmoil, the actress found a more secure and intimate personal environment with Schmidt, who played a key role in promoting Bergman's theatrical work in Europe. Between 1958 and 1975, their marriage lasted for over 20 years. Bergman found encouragement in Schmidt's commitment to the arts and his oversight of theatrical works during this period, while she managed her personal and professional lives. However, like many long-term marriages, Bergman's union ended in divorce, marking the end of yet another chapter in his complex and multidimensional personal life. Although Gregory Peck's physical size was memorable in and of itself, Ingrid Bergman's account went beyond that when discussing him. She wrote, "He was massive, and the phrase carried much more weight than a remark about his height or broad shoulders. All respect, and an almost confessional quality pervaded the sentence, as if recalling a presence that had previously overpowered her." Gregory Peck was the epitome of traditional Hollywood machismo in terms of physique. Standing taller than the majority of his peers, he frequently made an impression on co-stars and viewers alike. Even Bergman, who had collaborated with legendary figures from Humphrey Bogart to Cary Grant on different countries, was astounded by Peck's overwhelming presence as soon as he stepped onto a set. She pointed out that he didn't go into a room, he filled it. He had a statuesque, almost Roman, dignity to his body, but it was never menacing. His frame exuded sheer strength, but it was tempered by the beauty of his motions and the softness of his posture. However, Bergman also meant his soul when she used the word massive. The deep sincerity with which Peck carried himself, his calm intensity, and his moral compass, it all piled up to something huge. She recalled that he exuded a sense of solemnity, as though the air itself listened to his words. She explained how he had the power to make you feel as though your comments mattered profoundly, even in the most routine interactions. She said, "You couldn't lie to him." Their time together, both on and off screen, was tense, balancing professional appreciation with a strong unsaid affinity. He had eyes that saw through you, and not in a way that made you feel exposed, but in a way that made you want to be honest. Bergman acknowledged that there were times when I would glance at him across the stage and forget my lines, not because I was afraid, but rather because I was so engrossed in the man in front of me. She explained that it wasn't lust, but rather awe and a form of emotional submission to someone who appeared to be made of something everlasting. Bergman also remembered how Peake handled the pressure of his notoriety, with a humility that greatly pleased her. He never needed to be the loudest voice in the room, she said, adding that Gregory's silence frequently spoke louder than 100 words in a culture where vanity was a survival skill. He took his roles seriously, she noted, not for the attention but because he believed that playing was a means of expressing the truth, even if it was fiction. He was a believer in virtue, not the easy type, but the kind you have to battle for scene after scene. According to Bergman's memoir, she felt pushed, seen, and ultimately transformed while working with Gregory Peake. She observed that he had left an impression on her as a woman and as an actor. He served as a reminder that excellence is about presence rather than perfection. In the fullest, most glorious sense of the word, Gregory was there. Therefore, when she wrote, "He was massive," it wasn't a cliché or a headline from a tabloid. It was a summary of a man whose scope affected her more profoundly than she could have ever imagined on a bodily, emotional, creative, and spiritual level. Ingrid Bergman's life took a drastic and unexpected turn during the London production of The Constant Wife in the early 1970s. She discovered a concerning physical abnormality, a hard lump beneath her left breast, during this time when she was still dominating stages with the same charisma that had long characterized her cinema career. Bergman, who is renowned for her discipline and attention to detail, moved quickly, even though she was in the middle of a busy performance schedule. She had surgery to remove the growth on June 15, 1974, at a private clinic in London. This marked the start of a long and challenging struggle with breast cancer, which she chose to combat with elegance, courage, and an unyielding commitment to her craft, even if the procedure was kept relatively quiet. But the cancer wasn't finished with her. Years later, Bergman experienced another unsettling lump while filming Autumn Sonata, a film that would go on to become one of her most potent and highly regarded performances. She had to return to London immediately after this second finding, where she had yet another operation. It was a tremendously symbolic event. Under the direction of Ingrid Bergman, in a character that seemed to reflect the emotional struggles of her own life, she produced one of the most unvarnished, nuanced, and vulnerable performances of her career, despite the fact that her body was battling a terminal illness. Refusing to let her sickness define or limit her, Bergman started rehearsals for the 1978 television production of Waters of the Moon as soon as she recovered from the operation, showcasing her unwavering work ethic and unbreakable spirit. The character as Israeli Prime Minister Gold Meir in the 1981 television movie A Woman Called Gold was one of the most important of Bergman's late career roles, despite the fact that her illness was still progressing. The decision was bold and profoundly poignant. Bergman's face had changed with time and treatment, and she was now weak. She nevertheless embodied Meir's character with great dignity and courage. Her health suffered greatly as a result of the demanding nature of filming. However, she finished the project with her usual professionalism. Her illustrious Emmy and Golden Globe wins for the performance would serve as a final testament to her illustrious career in the dramatic arts. After this, Bergman left the public stage and went to her London apartment in the posh Cheney Gardens district, which is close to the Thames River. The neighborhood was renowned for its peaceful beauty and creative dwelling. However, it turned into a place of isolation and quiet struggle for Bergman. She started receiving routine chemotherapy treatments there. With a gentle stoicism, the once dazzling celebrity who had enthralled millions now confronted the illness. Fans and paparazzi often camped on the sidewalk outside her building, hoping to catch a glimpse of the iconic actress. She avoided the front window, conscious of their presence but hesitant to let them know how weak she was. Her body was now destroyed by the sickness. Her 12th vertebrae had collapsed due to the cancer's metastasis to her spine, which caused her excruciating agony and restricted her range of motion. Only a section of her left lung was still functioning, while her right lung had completely stopped. She never gave up her inner strength, nevertheless, even during these worst moments. On August 29, 1982, Ingrid Bergman tragically died in London shortly after midnight on her 67th birthday. In the company of those she loved, she passed away quietly. Alongside her bedside were three other people: including her ex-husband, the Swedish theatrical producer Lars Schmidt, with whom she had maintained a close and loving relationship. In a private and symbolic act filled with bittersweet celebration and imminent loss, they had made a farewell toast in her honor that evening, only hours before she passed away. A copy of Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's philosophical novella, The Little Prince, lay by her bedside, perhaps a last silent contemplation on her soul's journey. The book, which Bergman loved for its themes of purity, grief, and the invisible nature of things, lay open to a page near the end. In October, a memorial ceremony was held at London's renowned St. Martin in the Fields Church. 1,200 mourners from all over the world attended the mournful, magnificent event. The extended Rossellini family, her 3 children, including Isabella Rossellini, who had already started to establish herself in the film industry, and family members who had traveled in from Sweden to bid farewell to one of their biggest stars, were among them. A remarkable group of prominent figures from the performing arts also attended the funeral. Dame Wendy Hiller, Birgit Nielsen, Joss Ackland, Sir John Gielgud, Liv Ullmann, and other notable performers and lifelong colleagues were all in attendance, each silently paying their respects. Throughout the service, excerpts from Shakespeare were read aloud, reflecting Bergman's strong classical theater training. Among the musical choices were the light-hearted song, This Old Man, which was notably featured in The Inn of the Sixth Happiness, and the melancholic ballad, As Time Goes By, which was captured by Bergman's own voice in Casablanca, and seemed to capture the trajectory of her life and work. Later, her grandson Justin Daly recalled the intense passion and chaos of that day. As mourners attempted to weep, hundreds of photographers crowded the scene, vying for position and flashing their cameras. In the chaos, Daly recalled getting hit on the head by a camera. But in the midst of the suffering and bewilderment, he had a startling epiphany. Ingrid Bergman was more than just his grandma. I sensed she wasn't just my grandmother in the midst of all this chaos, he added. All the others owned her. She was a part of the planet. Millions of people felt the same way. Ingrid Bergman was more than just a friend, a mother, or a grandma. She was a global figure whose humanity, bravery, and artistic talent had impacted every nation.